A very good evening. Today my subject of address is recent trends in contemporary Bengali theatre. Now, as you know, figures are often the best friends for an analyst. It applies for arts as well. So let us begin the assessment of contemporary Bengali theatre. There's various types of theatre practiced in the state of West Bengal over the last 10 years or so, with a quick look at the program of the 21st Bharat Rang Mahotsav 2020. Clearly, the biggest showcasing of contemporary Indian theatre this annual festival may have left its best days behind, but it remains by and large the standard parameter for excellence in theatre in India, at least in urban part of India. Among the 795 Indian entries received by the National School of Drama, 56 were selected for the 3-week-long festival. 15 were from West Bengal. 15 out of 56, that is more than 25%. That is no mean achievement considering no other Indian state could reach even the double figure. All the West Bengal entries were in Bengali language, and they came not only from Kolkata, the vanguard of modern Indian theatre practice for more than a century now, but from across the state of West Bengal, with districts like Hooghly, Howrah, and North 24 Parganas sending out teams. More significantly, the productions were varied both in terms of form and content. Let us take a good look at them. There was a contemporary adaptation of Mahabharata, a creative reconstruction of a Greek myth, a dramatization of a Sanskrit poem, a colorful adaptation of Cyrano de Bergerac, a regular Bengali adaptation of an August Strindberg play, an experimental adaptation of a Luigi Pirandello classic, 3 extremely innovative adaptations of plays of Habib Tanvir and Girish Karnad, a straight adaptation of a Mohan Rakesh classic, a dramatization of a magic realist fiction, 3 reworking of contemporary reality, and a commentary on gender discrimination in contemporary India through a real-life drama based on the life and career of a female impersonator in Jatra. Now, if this is an indicator, then Bengali theatre is experiencing a high, a purple patch. Now, talking of quantity, there are thousands of amateur theatre groups, loosely termed as group theatre, operating in West Bengal now. Let us keep the professional theatre, best known by Jatra, leave aside them for the time being. Several hundred Bengali theatre groups received salary grants from the Ministry of Culture, almost half of the total number of groups all over India. They include the dance groups, of course, but there are thousands others in West Bengal who do not receive any financial support or cares a damn about it. West Bengal may not feature among the leading industrial states of India anymore, but it takes the lead when it comes to practicing performing art of all sorts. And this is best represented by the annual Natyamela, supported by the state of West Bengal. It is held in more than a half a dozen venues all over the state, with the Calcutta groups performing in the districts and the district groups showcasing their latest work to the Kolkata audience. Spanning over a few months, this betrays the sheer power and potential of theatre in a state that has experienced a steady decline in every crucial parameter since 1947. Thus, irrespective of a digital revolution that is gaining momentum in this pandemic-affected time and a decreasing social patronage, theatre has retained its place in the Bengali mind, be it rural or urban. Jatra and other indigenous performing art forms also continue despite of a steady decline. At present, there are about 100 companies operating from Chitpur, the nerve center of Jatra in West Bengal, and several thousand shows are organized in a seamlessly professional fashion all over the state every year from October to April. The annual turnover, to quote a very conservative estimate, is more than 100 crore per annum. Compared to this, the largely amateur group theatre may look like minnows, but it has been able to cater to the educated middle class over the years. Spurred by the left cultural movement of the 1940s, it is the theatre practice that made West Bengal a formidable name in contemporary Indian theatre. I'll try to analyze the state of this practice, this group theatre practice, in the following segment of this speech. West Bengal, the state that championed the group theatre movement since Bohurupi was formed in 1948, has witnessed a slump in the aforementioned practice. Groups that fostered a community bonding, inspired heated debates, nurtured generations of talents, and of course produced intellectually stimulating and attractively designed productions sound like misnomers nowadays. Barring a few, groups function irregularly and often before a show date nears. Bohurupi is a shadow of its former past. Among the groups formed in the 1960s, Nandikar remains an inspiring presence, but maintaining a large body of actors, musicians, and technicians is getting increasingly difficult, and Nandikar going strong till a few decades back is clearly showing signs of decay. This shows on their productions as well on the National Theatre Festival that enjoyed a stupendous patronage till the 1990s. Among the old groups, Sundaram and Theatre Workshop have witnessed many crises. Chetona seems to have renewed itself with octogenarian Arun Mukhopadhyay and his son Sujan Mukhopadhyay working hand in hand. Gone are the days of Marit Sangbad and Jagannath. Suman Mukhopadhyay, the Chetana director, who redefined the proscenium space in Kolkata in the turn of the 21st century, has moved away from theatre mostly, but Chetana can still pack a few punches as Don Take Bhalo Lage, an adaptation of Don Quixote, showed in 2018. Onno Theatre, with the formidable Bibhas Chakraborty as the guiding force, has managed to stay connected by reinventing itself with a new generation of theatre directors invited from outside the group. Language is one issue rarely discussed when we talk about theatre in West Bengal. Although Bengali language theatre rules the roost, the English language theatre is almost non-existent in affluent Kolkata club circuit. Some Hindi language theatre groups command a limited presence. Padatik has yet to come to terms with the passing away of Shyamanand Jalan and has witnessed fractures in the recent years. Now that Vinay Sharma has taken up the cudgels, the group seems to poised to renew itself. In spite of the odds plaguing Hindi theatre in downtown Kolkata, there is no dearth of takers for big ticket shows from Mumbai. This glamour seems to have eluded the city grown audience of good theatre. With Usha Ganguly succumbing to COVID-19 earlier last year, Rangokormi, the leading Hindi theatre group from Kolkata, is facing an existential crisis. Whether it would go the Anamika way or manage to stay afloat like Padatik remains to be seen. Meanwhile, Little Thespian has managed to pull in limited resources to earn a reputation across the Hindi-speaking states. Led by S. Azhar Alam, who has just passed away, and Uma Jhunjhunwala, the group has succeeded to keep the dying flame of Urdu theatre in the city aglow. Their annual theatre festival, Jasht-e-Rang, is arguably the best curated theatre festival we have in Kolkata now. Having said this, one must also acknowledge that the city's cosmopolitan character takes a beating as the audience is fragmented along the language line. Kolkata does not have a theatre district since the North Calcutta theatres, catering to the popular taste till the television spelled havoc, closed down in the 1990s. It was primarily a Bengali language theatre. The Academy of Fine Arts, which many of you know, which quickly gained acceptance as the theatre venue in the 1970s, did manage to pull in a wider profile. No longer, nowadays, all the state-owned halls offered to the theatre groups at a largely subsidized rate showcase only Bengali theatre. Kalamandir and G.D. Bila Sabhaghar, two best theatre venues the city can presently offer, run to packed houses only when the commercially attractive shows are flown in from outside the state and mostly from Bombay. Only Gyan Manch enjoys a wider audience, especially among the youngsters. One of the remarkable facets of present-day Bengali theatre lies in its ability to attract the young generation in large numbers. Gone are the days almost when the youth took to theatre to convey a political message. Politics remain a part and parcel of urban experience, but it is not always reflected on the stage in the manner it did, say, a few decades ago. Today's Bengali youth look a disjointed lot. Disappointment looms large over the job scenario, but they still consider theatre as a medium to vent their aspirations, and theatre continues to bring them in larger numbers. Anirban Bhattacharya is a recent case study. He and some of his colleagues from the state-funded Minerva Repertory Theatre is creating waves in the Bengali entertainment industry at this moment. Some of their contemporaries are instrumental in training a new generation of theatre persons. Since theatre can offer some financial security to earn a respectable living, many actors and technicians are joining the fray. Devshankar Haldar, a Nandikar veteran, was acting in about 20 productions raised by about a dozen groups and performing every single day of the year before the pandemic set in. He, along with Gautam Haldar, another Nandikar product, motivated a generation of actors to take a plunge into theatre. It received wholesome support from the central grants, of course. This fragile economic center took a serious beating when the pandemic broke loose. Yet most of the city groups survive on the sweat of young and aspiring theatre practitioners coming to city every day for studies or some other reasons, and mostly finding themselves in theatre. Thus, in spite of a minuscule presence of campus theatre in West Bengal, there is no dearth of young talents in theatre. Bengali actors may not have crossed the borders in great numbers in the recent years, Shahidur Rahman being the only success story, but many light designers made their presence felt. Sudeep Sannal is one prime example. One must also mention the recent tendency to connect to the roots, or to put in a better way, getting away from the limiting aspects of Western and technology-driven theatre to draw resources from the indigenous performing tradition. Monish Mitro has been consistent in this regard. The manner in which he accommodated Purulia Chau in a production called Riot remains an example, not to mention his Uruvangam, and Devesh Chattopadhyay, among the best directors of our times, often charts indigenous roots for an inspiration. Torun Pradhan, originally from Midnapur town, is another director with an innate ability to connect to the soil. But allied art forms like puppetry and mime are slowly getting pushed to the brink, rarely showcased in the regular festivals and forums. Now, those who are unfamiliar to the ground reality in West Bengal may not know about the distribution of theatre practice in the state. Let this be noted that a flourishing theatre practice may be found in district towns like Behrampur in Murshidabad, in Shiuri in Birbhum. These two districts, situated towards the middle of the state, have preserved many indigenous theatre forms which occasionally filter down to the proscenium practice. Other district towns like Shiliguri, Jalpaiguri, Kuch Bihar, Raiganj, Balurghat, Malda, Howrah have their own signature style. There are many Nodia and Hooghly groups who produced short-length plays and performed scores of shows during the winter months. North 24 Parganas leads the districts in terms of number and talent pool. Noihati is first emerging as a rival to Kolkata in terms of theatre infrastructure. Domdom has shown a lot of promise of late. Semi-rural centres like Gobodanga have several dozen active theatre groups. Thus, in spite of the dwindling audience numbers and increasing dependence on central and state government funds, the districts have remained the supply line for theatre in and around Kolkata. Surviving the crisis triggered by the left decline and the death of drama competitions, the districts have also lapped on to the opportunities provided by the state-funded festivals, national or international. Balurghat is always proud of Hori Madhav Mukhopadhyay. Madhyamgram can't stop eulogizing Prabir Guho, both Sangeet Natak Academy awardees for excellence in theatre directions. There is another aspect in which the districts have gone miles ahead of Kolkata. With the proscenium theatre spaces struggling to make ends meet in the city-centric arena, the districts have explored a palpable excitement in crafting alternative theatre spaces, sometimes more democratic and inclusive than many other spaces can offer. This has nothing to do with the street theatre practice, which has clearly lost its stream. There have been efforts to develop theatre villages. Shatkahania in Bardhaman is a prime example, or an open theatre space, Nibhrita Purnima in Bolpur, for example, or a theatre hub, Kollani Natyacharcha Kendro's multipurpose building is one example. Some studio theatre spaces are gaining acceptance. Gobodanga has already seen two, Karsi, Noksha and Shilpayon, both as a performance venue and also as per practice ground. Of late, roof spaces and rehearsal spaces are being refashioned to address the craving for a more immersive theatre experience. Padatik and Rankarmi showed the way, and many others are about to follow the suit. I feel like mentioning Imam Mime Center from Moslandapur, a quiet rural area in North 24 Parganas, led by Dhiraj Hauladar and propelled by a group of young men who live mainly off a bicycle garage near the railway station. They are setting up a theatre space not only for them but for the community at large. Although they receive some central grant, they could dream so big that they are winning admirers all over. Such inspiring stories are there in abundance. There are crises, and the biggest crisis is in terms of new playwriting, which is currently going through a lean phase. Although there are thousands of groups producing new productions every year, and many groups are joining the fray every month, there exists a crying need for new and original play scripts of various lengths. Talking of plays, West Bengal or Bengal boasts a formidable resource of original works since proscenium theatre flourished here in the British times. Loosely termed as classics, these 19th century and early 20th century works, they remain popular. And Rabindranath's sesquicentennial celebrations in 2011 has also proved that new generation of theatre directors and actors can receive the impulses thrown in by Tagore's theatre. Now, talking of the post-1947 era, Badal Sarkar and Mohit Chattopadhyay passed away in quick succession, and although Badal Sarkar's third theatre works remain concentrated to a few dozen groups which practice his drama, his pre-1972 plays have a few takers in the proscenium ambit. Utpal Datta has been rediscovered in the last few years. Underlined by a strong leftist propaganda, Utpal's way of interpreting history seems to have struck an accord with the ideological position of a section of theatre persons, especially in the wake of Hindutva politics that seems to have gained considerable grounds in the state. Among the surviving playwrights, Manoj Mitra is undoubtedly the most popular for many, many years. Chandan Sen has produced a wide range of works in the recent years. In fact, in the recent years, his fascination with Eugene O'Neill and Luigi Pirandello have turned quite a few heads. Debashish Mojumdar continues to write new works for his group Shudrak. Mojumdar, which is supreme power over the idiomatic use of Bengali language and an ability to relate to the greater socio-political ambit, has produced at least two memorable works in the recent years, Dahananto and Boijoyantika. Ujjwal Chattopadhyay remains the most prolific playwright of this generation. Bratto Bosu, currently a state minister and also an art administrator, remains the most influential among them. Whether the state of West Bengal continues to produce new theatre writers, the theatre direction remains a strong point here. There are also very capable playwrights, seniors, like Shomit Bosu and Tirthankar Chando, for both of them are in their 60s. One must mention Kaushik Chattopadhyay, primarily a director based in Shantipur, because he is very skillful in adapting and directing American works, American novels, and his recent adaptations of Howard Fast novels have created waves across West Bengal. Now, as I finish this essay, I feel that many complain that our times are not getting adequately reflected in our theatre. This is one of the key factors. Dependence on the central grants has also influenced the politics of theatre. Thus, the policy of please all is first deteriorating into a please none outcome. Even the social media posts by the theatre groups and individuals are so sensitive about anything political that one cannot really expect any turnaround very soon. Yet, theatre goes on unabated in West Bengal. It may have lost some of the steam and also sting, but the infectious zeal remains strong till death. In fact, it remains the most powerful yet underutilized instrument in the hands of the civil society that is waiting to be unleashed. Thank you so much.